flows, but the real problem now is going to be Zapman letting loose with those enhanced masks. Finds Snoopy, no problem at all. Lurking in the waters is Neyruma, and they're turning their attention towards the Titan. Titan at half health, and Trifecta are showing all the signs that they're going to even this one up 1-1.
And again, just a complete 180. Night and day between Trifecta's first game and their second match. And kudos to that team for bouncing back pretty quickly as well. That was a very swift recovery by the members of Trifecta. More importantly, though, we're breaking down the drafts and we're talking about Mass the whole time. I think where this game really kind of fell apart is just Fine OK is on a god that he cannot keep Scary D under rain with.
Yeah, that Terra was not getting it done in the solo lane, but we want to know who you all think was the real MVP of that game. There's plenty of candidates out there for you between Mask and between Mad Yankee. I mean, they looked excellent that game, so make sure you vote there and make sure chat for us so we know who you think can be the one that really made the big impact for them. But let's go ahead and get it back over to Tom and Ryan.
Thanks a lot there, guys. Welcome back to the desk. Bonus Smite Game 3.
This is what it's all about. Season 5, finally get these definitive winners. Feels really good, and it's got to feel good for Trifecta to get a chance to redeem themselves after a fairly rough Game 1, especially Mask. You know, we were talking post-game that his nemesis wasn't quite up to snuff there in Game 1. He starts it all for Trifecta in game number 2. He was able to get off to an early lead, and not only himself getting leads, but he wasn't actually getting the kills. It was Zapman in that duo lane. And what did we talk about when we were talking about what Trifecta needed to change in game 2? Get Mask comfortable, get Zapman comfortable. Well, check, and Trifecta end up winning the game.
Like I said, the problem for me in game number 1 out of Mask was his decision-making. His slash line wasn't that egregious, but the way that where he went to get those kills and assists was the wrong spot. Now this time around, he goes, and exactly like you said, helps out Zapman, and it goes up into the victory. And no surprise here whatsoever, Mr. Escazada will be our MVP. Congratulations to Mask for that one fantastic performance on the Ratatasker. 6-0-9 with about 14 grand in damage.
And this is how you draw it up as a Ratatasker, right? You get big in the early game, you get your team off to a good lead, they get an extra bout of farm because of it, and then, you know, your carries start to bring home the bacon. It's your ADC, your mid laner that are really allowed to shine because of the pressure you exerted for them. And that's exactly what Trifecta did here. As much as we were, you know, I was ranting and raving about how good the team composition from CLG was and how they used their front line effectively and allowed their backliners to play aggressive at times while not too aggressive, still staying safe. The exact same thing applies here for Trifecta. It was the perfect game plan from draft to execution. And that's what I think that we're going to see a lot more of here in Season 5, with the talent condensed into these 6 teams. It's going to take them a little bit to get their game plan and execution working in harmony, but when it does, any team can look dominant in any given game. CLG dominates Game 1, Trifecta does the same in Game 2.
Very, very nice stuff here. And like we said, I mean, everything that we talked about in the picks and bans kind of came to fruition for Trifecta. And I'm just very excited that we're here in Game 3. Normally I ask, you know, what adaptations you make, but there wasn't anything that stuck out for CLG for me. I think Trifecta just kind of stepped over them.
Well, in some senses, yes. For me, look, mid lane is so good right now.
Yeah.
Mages are so good right now. I don't see a lot of value in going towards a hunter in the mid lane right now. Huyi has a very good mid game, yes, and that's where mid laners are really shining, is in that mid game stage, and that's why mages feel so impactful, because they're getting so much farm, and putting a hunter in mid kind of feels a little bit more like Season 4, where you're getting a ton of farm, more so than anyone else on the map, and then you can make that impact. Look, Herwin's been playing hunters in the mid lane for a long, long time. He's had success. He's had bad games on him as well. Call me a purist. I like seeing mages in the mid lane there, or a more ability-based hunter. Even if you swap Huyi and Medusa there, I'm probably going to be a little bit happier. Either way, I just want to see Herwin back on a mage. Pick at the top 3 for him so they don't get all banned away. Give him his Giannis, you know? Give him one of those gods that he can carry on. He did beautifully in Game 1. I want to see more of it in Game 3.
I'm absolutely with you. Herwin's a very capable player, and we'll see if him and his team can find themselves in a Game 3. Let's head to P's and B's. Pretty please. CLGs versus Trifecta.
What were you trying to do there, Tom? Were you trying to, like, rhyme or something?
Yeah, there's no rhyme for Trifecta. I don't know how to do that one.
I can't help you here.
Well,
no one can help you here.
Dashi and Nemesis banned out here by CLG and Trifecta, respectively. Just the Assassins, really no surprise here. The Ratatasker banned out. They don't want to see Mask reprise that role, and Uller No Uller, says Trifecta. So the first pick for CLG,
Thoth.
Soul?
Thoth. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Give Herwind the carry mage. Soul would have fit the bill and could have been fine here. I wouldn't have been upset with a Soul pick. Trifecta needs to pick it on the back end. They will do that. Everything is fine and dandy in the universe because this is how it should be going through these first 2 picks.
I like the Thoth first pick better as well. Camazot's selected here for Trifecta. Big plan there. Home if it wasn't able to do what we were talking about, but certainly going to be a good pick.
Yeah, Sobek locked in here for CLG. Now that could be going to the solo lane. As Taco said at the back end of that cast, FidoK just has not been able to make an impact. And that's really by design. They've been giving him these losing matchups intentionally. When you're playing Terra in the solo lane, your teammates can tell you all you want that you're going to be the focal point. You are never the focal point as Terra solo. You are there to press 4 and say good luck as your team pushes forward and not lose your lane too hard. That's Terra solo's job. And FidoK did just that. I just like this little switch up. Sobek's still a Guardian, still not going to be able to have that full-on bully potential in that solo lane, but certainly better than the Terra in terms of pressure.
Well, the Agni going to provide a little bit more control. We've spoken about this character a number of times, and that's why we're seeing him picked over and over again. Jigta Sylvanas, very, very strong. I like to see that character, but the Artio selection from Trifecta, that'll do a good job of shutting down the mobility coming out from Thoth and Sobek, but it just might be one of those picks that FidoK enjoys.
Yeah, I like this selection here. Scary's had a pretty good Artio throughout his career and has been having the pressure in that lane consistently so far today. May as well give him another comfort pick. Artio doesn't really fit that Guardian bill of low clear, low poke because of the stance switching nature of her kit. So she can kind of pressure you like a warrior can and still bring that pressure. I like this pick here.
Thor and Hachiman selected for CLG. So we'll see the jungler with the semi-global. And Kakulin, the last selection overall. Support Artio or support Kakulin?
Support Artio. I do not think that NA is on the support Kakulin train as much as Europe is. Again, Scary D's looked good today. Picked up a nice double kill in the mid lane early on as Bologna with the rotation in game 2. Had the solo kill with Kakulin against the Guardian in game 1. I'm giving Kakulin to Scary in this matchup. Plus, it lets the Artio stick around the god that she wants to cripple out more, namely that Thoth in the mid lane.
I feel you on that one. No more waiting. Game 3, Finch and Taco. Bring it.
Thanks, Tom and Ryan, for breaking it down for us. Game 3 here between Trifecta and CLG. And I mean, Soul, Artio, Camazotz we saw, Kakulin. I mean, kind of feels like you got just about everything you want.
Trifecta's draft is terrifying. There's no other way to put it, really. I mean, when you get a Camazotz, a Soul, an Artio even, just to deter anybody from trying to chase down your carries, things can get really complicated. But CLG, they might not have as much burst initially, or at least during the early game portions. I am looking all eyes onto Hurrywind with this Thoth gameplay in this final match.
Well, let's see who you all think will win it in that last game. I remember they won you over, did CLG, about 67%, but not quite right. That's okay, chat. It's all forgotten here. Let's give it another try here with Game 3 and see who can pull it out. This is it, though. No more games. They're going to be going into it. There's going to be a winner here. And remember now, we're not doing those best of 2s where, you know, I get 1 point, you get a point, and then you either win or you did not. I
will say, though, to be completely fair to Mixer Chat, is that they have a lot to go. They don't have much to go off of. You know, they see a match in such a dominating fashion, and these guys, it's always going to be the back and forth. It's really hard to tell. There's just so much stiff competition between the pros this year.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give you too hard a time on that one, Mixer Chat. That's okay. It's a tough game. This one, though, I'm really excited to see what's going to be happening this time. We're going to be seeing the Camazotz selection for him. Last game, Max finally came alive on that Ratatosker pick. Let's see if he can do that same thing with Camazotz.
He's probably still going to carry over that same sort of early game ambition to try and find those ganks for his team, like in the grouping out of CLG, just seeing if there might be somebody out of position from Trifecta, but they're going to go ahead and spot that one now, and the likes of CLG are just going to fall back to their own side of the map, and no wards placed either.
Yeah.
That heavily, they really just wanted a pick.
That's what I was going to say. Oh, I think they do have one very deep down there by the actual speed buff, so they're able to get one put down, but I agree. Usually you see a couple put down. Camazot's kind of standing right over it there now, but Usually you see they'll do a little bit more with that one, but you're right, they couldn't quite find the pick, so instead they'll just back it up.
The main reason for the placing of that ward, by the way, is because they can tell which direction Mask is going to feed off from there, whether he's going to go speed to red buff or if he's going to go speed to blue buff. And granted, he can always do speed to the Harpies to red, but it's not going to have the same sort of impression that he did in game number 2 where he found that early kill, or helped Zapman, I should say, get the first blood.
And they'd still be able to track that either way. If he comes through mid lane, they'll be able to see it there, or if he comes back across the ward yet again. So you're correct. This does give them some very important information here early, because if you get that pressure and you come over to try and make the invade, now they'll know if he wasn't coming right over there to that instead. This time they know he's sticking over to his side of the jungle, and that's better than Mixer Tower. Right back to being where it's very even. Trifecta at 51%, CLG at 49%. Too close to call. Looks like a little bit in favor of Trifecta, perhaps because of this killer draft they were able to get, but let's not undersell Hurrywind on this though.
I'm liking Snoopy a lot more on this Hachiman, though, than the Medusa in the previous match. While I understand the concept with maybe trying to utilize that passive to help with boxing potential against the Soul, Snoopy on the Hachi now is going to have a little bit better poke, I should say, because he has those extended range autos, so he doesn't have to get up close and personal with the Soul, not really at risk of getting caught up in that passive. And on top of that, great dash that can also be used as an engagement tool.
And dash is going to be strong for Snoopy if he can get it out correctly. Could be potentially difficult, though, into the RDO with that cripple field, depending on how she's using it and how well he can box up against that. Speaking of the RDO and some of these tankier characters, this time, though, Final K is going to be on the Sobek as opposed to the Terra that we've been seeing so much from him this set. So even though it's still a Guardian, this is one that can certainly have more impact when he rotates over than what he's done so far.
And you've got to love RDO in general, because it kind of allows Neomall to play the way that he wants to. Neomall's actually a little bit different, I would say, to most supports. For any of you that haven't had an opportunity to check out his streams, this guy loves getting up close to you. He wants to stay in your face entirely. He loves being that member of his team that's just constantly forcing you to notice him.
So low is Scary D, and he's very far forward here. Getting that spin to win on him, not going to be a problem for Homifei to finish that one off. Just a little bit too far forward was the Kakullan players, who will take an early spill and give that kill over to the jungler for CLG.
That's actually pretty scary, though. This is the first time that CLG has really looked into punishing Scary D from the start of a match. And in game 1, we saw how much pressure Scary D was able to have on this Kakullan with those early rotations. But when you take an early death like that, before even the 3-minute mark, you're still going to be sitting at level 4. It's going to allow Final K on this Sobek, and normally a low-pressure kind of solo laner, to be able to maintain steady levels and farm. And additionally, Scary D's not going to have that same sort of lead, or not going to be able to snowball into the same kind of lead that allows him to make those early rotations.
Yeah, and it's scary for a homie to be getting a level 1 or a very early kill, a first blood in particular. He's very scary on this Thor pick. This is one of those picks that we know that he can light up the scoreboard with. We've seen him do it so many times before, and already off to a very strong start is Homifei. And in game 1, it really feels like this has been the story of the junglers, really, not just in game 1. When the jungler does well, the rest of the team is able to build off that momentum. Let's see if Homie can keep it going.
As Thor, it's awesome having this semi-global ultimate as well. It's going to kind of play a very useful method as far as preventing Trifecta from pulling whatever objectives they might want to look for early on. They do have a pretty strong composition, Trifecta that is, at looking for some early game objectives, considering that they have the Soul and the Agni yet again, and even Camazotz can provide a pretty nice little burst of damage on those early game objectives. But the Thor is just great for spotting out anybody that might be in the area and just surprising, catching people off guard.
Lurking in the waters has come out, and look at all that mana return that Final K was able to get. You'd have thought he just got back from the base because he's back up to that full bar. That's what's one of those things that makes Sobek so strong over here in the solo lane. Rotating over, it looks like, though, is Homifei. He's going to be walking right across a ward, though. So now Scary D certainly knows he's over here, and that's fine. He's not really looking to gank into that lane either way. Instead, it's going to come pick up that farm on those back Harpies. We're getting to see some of what makes Sobek and Final K so strong over here. Is the wave actually getting frozen in duo. Now finally showing up our Neyrima and Zapman to force them to start trying to clear. Good poke coming out from Neyrima too.
Gotta appreciate what a Sylvanas and Hachiman can do in this duo lane. If anything, Artio can have the same sort of clear effects alongside of the Soul. It's not that Artio is traditionally weaker, or that other Guardians, I should say, are traditionally weaker than a Sylvanas when it comes to lane clear. It's just that typically you aren't able to pair them with another Hunter that's going to be as effective as Sylvanas with their god. And so you just have to appreciate that little bit of pressure that is able to be matched equally in the dual lane.
Looking for the invade on the blue buff is Trifecta. Pushing into the enemy jungle. Fine, okay. Came in to try and knock it up, but not gonna be enough. Scary D is able to pick that buff up for himself. Even get a little bit of return damage on Define, okay, for the trouble. Not gonna be anything particularly relevant, though. He'll be able to heal that back up, and we saw what that mana return could look like, too, so he's not gonna have too big a trouble over here. Is Fine, okay. But gonna want to try and recoup some of that lost farm.
Hurrywin just trying to do what he can. Against an Agni, he's not going to have the most pressure, but talk about catching somebody off guard. Yankee, homie's going to fall short for once on that Thor ultimate. That was the very first one I think that we saw him actually try to land.
We couldn't see when he used it, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, say maybe it was a little bit out of range. He couldn't have made it to that max level because he fell way back into that jungle camp, and there was no way for him to be able to get anything off of it. Instead, Yankee ends up putting a bunch of damage back onto him, and homie has to run. Speaking of damage, dashing aggressively is Snoopy immediately. Supernova comes out in return. Oof. Snoopy turns around with that mounted archery, though, and gets that kill. Nearmouth trying to lock him down and give Mask a chance to come join, but no chance. 2-0 now for CLG.
And that's the untold story of a Hachiman versus Soul matchup. Zatman used it to separate to get out of the danger initially, but canceling the form early, or at least it seemed as though he canceled the form early, gonna get caught up in that mounted archery, and Hachiman's ult is just so wonderful in securing those kind of kills.
And it does so much too, the CC immunity, the movement, the slow it puts out. It does a ton of damage to everyone inside that cone as well. Snoopy using it perfectly there to find that return kill on the Zatman. This is everything you could have wanted from a Snoopy Zatman Hunter lane matchup, though. They've been throwing down in this dual lane.
Oh, this is exactly what you have to expect. I mean, and Snoopy, when he first started playing competitive, I'm pretty sure Zatman was one of his idols, and now that they've actually been opponents for so long throughout the history of competitive, it's just a really cool thing to see.
No, it really is. I mean, you get these high marquee matchups like Barracuda and Zatman, or Snoopy is going to be going up against Panda Cat. I mean, this is what you want to see from them fighting it out over here, and that's what's been happening. Snoopy got just the better of him that time, a little bit of help from Jigs in that dual lane. Mask is rotating over here to this. Looks like the buff's already been dropped, so I don't think they're going to continue fighting over this one. Where the fight will continue, though, is Homie Faye going in on the Yankee. He's taking damage from Thoth over the wall, though, and Homie Faye almost gets blown up by Mask. Has to go straight up into the air and straight back. He makes it out in time, though.
I think Mask thought that his autos were going to be enough, or he might have had everything on cooldown, but either way, they're looking to dive Hurrywin now. Neilmont taking up the brunt of this tower damage. It's going to be 3 hits secured, and even Aegis isn't going to save him here. There
was just no one around to try and help him out there. Hurrywin ends up falling, even using the Aegis. So even once he does respawn in 15 seconds, he'll have another 150 seconds to wait on that Aegis to come back up. So even longer without a relic to set up Mask for another gank attempt paired up with Yankee if they want to look for it. Finally, the first kill on the board for Trifecta.
And Homie's just going to back to base now, but that's a pretty harsh blow to take. You're off to a hot start. You've got a kill in dual lane, and Homie had his initial kill as well onto Scary D. But then for your mid laner to fall, and Thoth at that, Hurrywin, there's really nothing else he could have done in that situation. He was just at the mercy of waiting for his dash cooldown to be back up and running. And even then, Neilmalt diving in with the cripple field surrounding on the Artio, that's just what you pick the Artio for, I feel.
No, there really was not anything you could do except somehow just not to be there. A 3-man dive on that tier 1 tower, even through the Aegis and all his return damage. It was just entirely too much for him to try and deal with. So he took a spill. 0-1-0 now, as opposed to Yankee, who has the 1 assist to his name. They've gone a little bit differently here in their start. Scary D does get plucked back into the damage from Homefei. Looks like he's not too far away from that Rage transformation, so he'll get that shield, another rotation of abilities, and he'll have a chance to get back out of here, and he does. Fine, okay, and Homefei don't really have a way to keep fighting into this one, and this time they'll get their own buff. Actually, going up with the Anvil of Dawn, he does want to keep going, lands on him, doesn't have the wall just yet, goes immediately into the spin and gets blown up from Mask. He had the hammer available, and the pluck saves his life. FineOK got him out of there. He had no business living.
And we've been wondering, why does FineOK keep picking these low-pressure solo laners? It's because he's playing the gods for his team. He is pure utility, probably one of the most utility-based solo laners we've seen in quite some time for NA. All he really cares about is focusing around the team fight, and that peel right there is exactly what COG are looking for.
The peel was great. The call to go back in, I'm not so sure. He gets blown up almost immediately from Mask, and yes, they got a lot of his cooldowns from that Rage transformation out, so he thought he had a chance to go back in, but he just didn't have, I don't think he had the cooldowns on his own side. He didn't use the wall to try and set up for the spin either.
I can't fault Homie's decision to go back in simply because he just had no idea that Mask was there.
Sure.
There isn't any vision right now in the solo lane, and there wasn't any during that engagement. Homie probably felt as though he was actually alone and just willing to take up that 1v1 since Scary D was only around the 40% threshold, but that could have been a lot worse had FineOK not been as close by as he actually was.
Yeah, that pluck was perfect, and the only reason I believe that we saw Homie Fake get out of that one. Either way, nothing really comes of it. Both with 1 kill apiece are the two junglers. And both level 10. They're maintaining very evenly throughout these first 11 minutes. This is nothing like either of the first 2 games. The first one, it was all Homie. Second game, it was all Mask. Now, this game is looking dead even between these two teams. So, hey, I'll give my credit there to Mixer Chat. It was 51-49, and it's looking like that right now. It's looking dead even.
Both sides are really just trying to utilize their composition's strengths and ignore the weaknesses, or at least focus on the enemy team's weaknesses. For CLG, we've been seeing a lot of pressure that Homie's been trying to apply to Metyankee. Metyankee's probably the most vulnerable member of Trifecta right now. Zapman has to separate really hard to lock him down, especially since he's usually got Neilma hovering him on the RDO. And Mask, it's Camazotz. You're not going to really want to get into a 1v1 this early on as Thor versus Camazotz. Camazotz usually have the advantage.
Mask actually takes a bunch of damage, and before he can even get up into the air, Homie finds him. Then he goes right into the own ultimate, finds the final judgment, does Heroin. Anvil of Dawn is waiting for Homie, and he does land right down onto Medyankee. FineOK's here, but unneeded. Homie finds another kill to send CLG up 4-1.
For once, I'm actually glad the Claster's Curse came into play. But normally in most situations, Thor doesn't really want to take up those engagements against the Camazotz, and CLG were just here to prove me wrong the entire time, because it's not just Thor, it's a Thoth as well.
Yeah.
That long-range stun just really catching Mask off guard, and then the additional damage from the hieroglyphic wall as well was just a little bit too much for Trifecta to handle.
I'm still going to give you full credit on that one, Taco, because I don't think Homie takes that fight if Heroin doesn't have health him anyway. So, I mean, that then it just started looking a little bit too good for him, and he had to go in and clean that one up. But that's what this Thoth pick was. This was first picked overall by CLG. They wanted Heroin on a carry this game, and already we're seeing a bit of why, able to help set up that double kill in mid.
I really am loving that commitment, though, from Homie, because if he misses that Thor ult, he probably dies. But he just had confidence in himself as a player to land back down on top of Metyankee, trust that he would be able to get the stun off, so Met couldn't wait for his cooldowns to be available, and without having those purification beads, or he does have the purification beads, but just not in time and when he needed them.
Everyone is here. Mask is here, Neyrumas here, as well as a little bit more from Medyankee. Final judgment came through the team fight and able to avoid the damage with the evade and punish. Up in the air is Homie. He does have Jigs in tow, but no other real damage, so he's not going to drop back into this fight. Instead, he goes towards the red buff. He couldn't stick around, though. Everybody else from Trifecta was on their way. Instead, he's going to be on the run. I think he might have been able to successfully drop it, though, before he left.
He definitely managed to secure the buff, and that's the reason why we saw Trifecta think about giving chase. If there's one thing that an Agni and a Soul don't want to see happen, it's the red buff to be lost. Jigs now might pay the price for his teammates' aggression, but instead he's going to remain safe and sound underneath that T1 tower. Same cannot be said for Zapman.
No, 0 mana, 0 health, 0 Zapman. Snoopy gets credit for it, but it was set up almost entirely there by Homie, rotating in with the perfect wall to separate him away. This tier 1 tower is already very low, so Mask had to stick around if he wants to try and keep this one standing up against the pressure of Homie and Snoopy.
I just got to say, this is starting to bear a lot of similarities to game number 1 between CLG and Trifecta, where Homie would gank, and then Mask would just be a little bit too late to the party. And already CLG now find themselves up 5-1. More importantly, the first real gold lead of the game, about 2,200 in their favor. It's the experience difference, though, that's really starting to be felt between these two teams.
Yeah, that experience lead was at about 4,000. Getting a little bit more evened out as Trifecta picks up a little bit of farm for themselves, but it's getting to the point where it is going to be a little bit tougher for them to fight back in. Clearly, the pressure in that dual lane is held by Snoopy if you just base it on that tier 1 tower, which is almost crumbled already. Neyrima has Homie and Jigs kind of staring him down. The wall not on the quite the correct side, so Neyrima is going to be able to keep running away. No real way to lock him down there with that dash, so Homie will instead just go ahead and back. But the speed might be getting stolen away by Scary D, who's free to roam.
This is Homie's worst nightmare. He didn't get a kill, and he's going to lose his buff, but for Zapman, his team might be able to find the kill instead. Aegis is going to come out. Snoopy's going to elect to drop his ultimate just so he doesn't have to dive the tower any further. And Mask was hovering in the jungle, but it's Homie who comes crashing down on top of Meyankee.
Meyankee had to dash away and had to use the Aegis as well. There comes the ultimate. All that damage provided there by Zapman, even though Mask is the one that got the kill. Diving on the backside of this one is fine. Okay, this time having way more impact than he was when he was on the Terra. Homie came in, and Homie finished that one off. Now pulled back in by Jigs was Neyrima. He's going to escape on the backside. Fine, okay, plucks Scary D back away as well to let the Hello Health bars get away from the rest of this damage. It's been 1 for 1 so far, and Scary D does not look ready to give it up.
Barely coming short of connecting with Neyrima. That would have been probably a kill for Hurrywin, and a solid 2 for 1 for CLG. Unfortunately, it's just going to be an even trade out for right now. Hunter for the mid. And now both teams just going to like to go back to farming as they would normally. But a pretty huge blow to Snoopy, as he did have a very commanding lead against Zapman. And granted, his lead is still intact, but it's just the slowing down of the process. Snoopy really wants to just keep trying and progressing that experience advantage. But whenever you go down, you're not going to have the chance to do so.
They might have the advantage as far as relics are concerned, though, at the end of that fight. I'm trying to decide, who that might have come out in favor of. Meyankee doesn't have Aegis or beads available to him for at least another 85 seconds or so. So those are both going to be down for him, while there's still the beads available for Homie, Whirlwind, and for Snoopy as well. A lot had to be used to get Zap and to get Trifecta out of that dangerous situation that they were in, and Relic is kind of the price they paid.
I think this is the first time, though, where we really saw FineOK prior to the after effects of the laning phase. He actually made that rotation fairly early on compared to what we saw in match 1 and 2.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So it's very refreshing to see him actually being able to make that sort of rotation and have an impact on the team fight for once, as opposed to Scary D just being the lone solo laner doing that.
Scary D does still have a lead over there in that solo lane. He's about a level and a half up, I want to say. I think I saw him up 18 to 16 at one point, so probably just hasn't ticked over 19 quite just yet. But he's been having a good time of it over in that solo lane. Not too big a surprise, though, for Cullen up against a Guardian. And as you said, FineOK can certainly still have an impact when he comes into these team fights.
And again, Snoopy and Jigs playing a little further up than what you might expect, considering how many members from Trifecta are lurking in this jungle.
Everyone
Mask has spotted it out. He's on the way over.
Oh, no.
They have no idea that he's going to be here. Burst is coming, but not enough to lock him down just yet.
Instead, they're going to turn their attention back towards Jigs, who really has no movement ability to get out of here. Homie is nearby, though. He does come crashing on the backside, lands on the Zapman, and starts to turn the damage towards Meyankee. He finds him with the spin to win, but I don't believe he has that hammer available to him. Whirlwind's, though, available to try and put the damage in Neyrima. That's enough to get them to force their way back. Now, FineOK once again is making the rotation, lurking in the waters right beneath him, and comes crashing back up. They did manage to find Homie, though, and get that return kill on him, so it's 2 for 1 in favor so far of CLG.
Scary has no plans of stopping. He is just running straight through the T1, straight through the T2. Can't make it that far into the Phoenix. Luckily enough for Jigs, he is going to find safety underneath his own Phoenix, and his team in the process is going to be able to pick up that T1 tower. Considering the trade out, that's overall a win for CLG.
Yeah, it was a win for CLG. They won the fight, got the objective at the end as well, and they were able to get Jigs back out of there. For a moment there, I thought he was dead to rights as he positioned himself to keep Snoopy alive, but the rotation over from Hurrywin was perfect, but damage into the back end. Homie got a 2-man dunk with that Thor ult as well, and that really was what slowed Meyankee's damage down as well, and they were able to turn that one around.
Trifecta could have probably secured that kill onto Jigs, but it would have meant losing Met Yankee a lot sooner than what they probably wanted to. The immediate disengage from Jigs only comes as a result of Homie landing that huge Thor ultimate in the back line there. And that was just a great counter gank initiation by Homie.
And it was what he had to do. I mean, already Mask could come in. And I think when Mask first bleaked in, he missed his first ability. I think he ended up putting, I think it hits Jigs instead of Snoopy, who was initially looking for. So he didn't get as much damage onto the Hachiman as he wanted.
Snoopy, though, still having that ultimate available is probably the main reason why we saw Mask ultimately just end up turning around. He just couldn't really afford to keep giving chase to someone who was clearly going to be able to get underneath the safety of their T1 tower, and without anybody tanky enough to dive the T1 farm and tank up those tower shots, it's just too risky of an engagement to take.
Yeah, horses are faster than bats, right? We got that right here in the game, like horses outrun the bats, or because he was up in the air, he was flying, trying to catch up to him, and the horse was too fast.
There's actually a lot of animals in this game. You've got a bird with Thoth. There's,
sure.
I mean, Jigs is kind of a tree. That's still part of nature. We're gonna call that nature. Snoopy's
the bear
got a
on
horse.
Nerima, yeah.
Yeah, and we got a horse and a bat.
A lot of fast animals.
This is an animal-friendly game.
It is an animal-friendly game, not a Gold Fury-friendly game, though. As CLG have pulled and already have it to half health, they kind of leashed it there for a moment, so some damage was lost. Neyrima's here, Med Yankee's here as well. That's enough for CLG to drop it. They don't want to take that 50-50 with those Agni bombs raining in on top of the fight. That felt to me like if they could catch them sleeping, they'd take it, but if not, they'd back up. Now they got the stun damage on Neyrima, not very much onto the tanky RDO. And they'll reset.
Curious that they would reset the Gold Fury at 30% health. Scaredy, though, meanwhile, he's in the backside. Mask coming to be blinking in. He's giving chase as well with that bat out of hell. And Snoopy's going to have to forcibly use his own ultimate defensively. Big win for Trifecta there.
Horse outran the bat again. What can I say? Horses are fast, man.
But
horses are fast.
Going back to that initial pull of the Gold Fury, though, I'm surprised that CLG didn't just burst it. They have a Thoth ultimate. That final judgment should out-secure Agni bombs every single day of the week.
They are pulling it one more time. This time they've got Neyrima locked down, pulled in. He was able to make it out, though. I think that might have been the shell that came out to keep him alive for the moment. Now Scary D's in the back line. Final K finally chased it down, but he's trying to keep Hurriwind and Jigs busy. Wrath of Terra comes out to try and slow him down, where on the backside it's going to be Homie Fate looking for Med Yankee. He does eventually get him, but gives his life away in trade. 2-for-1 again in favor of CLG, trying to control Scary D so the damage dealers can continue pumping out their damage, and they do. But looping around the back is Zachman, and he has his ultimate available.
Scary D just bought his team so much time, though. 4 members couldn't take out Scary D right away, and because of it, now the reinforcements from Trifecta have arrived, and they're going to all be able to push CLG back to their own base. Snoopy, one of the only members remaining that hasn't opted to back just yet, but there is nothing that a 50% health Hachiman can do to prevent this Gold Fury from going down.
Looks like he is at least going to come take a peek. He's got Final K on the back end of this team fight, too, to try and slow them down. He's here, and now he's putting damage of his own into that Gold Fury. He's giving it up and started turning towards the fight. This is good for CLG to stop them from getting this objective. The rotation from Final K was huge.
That was by far the best thing that could have possibly happened for CLG there. Final K doing a great job. TP back in. No one really saw it coming. I definitely was not expecting him to be there.
They're still trying to pull it here, Taco, even with Mass staring him in the face. Unable, though, is Trifecta to slow it down. CLG do take it for free, and you're right. 2-0-4 for Final K, looking way better this game, and he's the one that helped turn that Gold Fury around.
And again, if Final K doesn't make that rotation, then Trifecta most likely gets the Gold Fury for free, and with 2 of their members about to be respawning at the same time, they also might have just been to immediately swing on over to the Pyromancer and take that objective as well. So one simple TP in from Final K prevents what might have been a devastating chain of events.
Instead of that big swing in Trifecta's favor, counter logic, try and bring it back a little bit. If we can see those grass again, I think that Trifecta had started to pull it a little bit in their favor, and then CLG turned it back around when they were finally able to get that Gold Fury. They're sitting up 10-4 in the kills here right now, 23 minutes here into the game. Not going to be able to go for this Pyromancer just yet. There was a dip for a moment, but it shot right back up at that Gold Fury.
It's the Gold Fury. A lot of these objectives have been the distinguishing factors between who is currently in the lead, because even though there's a small amount of a gold lead between these two teams, that doesn't really deter either side for looking for the engagements. If they can see an advantageous point to take, they are most likely going to gobble it right up. CLG in particular, I think that Homie has been, again, we've just seen him and Mask kind of trading off from game to game of who's going to be the initiating factor. And one more time, it's Homie.
Yeah, Homie is ready to initiate. I don't know if Zapman is aware of this happening at all. He crashes right down on top of him. Mounted Archery comes in support from Snoopy as well. Disapparate's going to keep him alive for a second. The walls him off, throws in the hammer and blinks right to it. Now Aegis is going down too. I don't know if he got a chance of getting out of that one. Homie cleans it up.
Zap used everything in the process of trying to escape. The beads, the Aegis, except only the ultimate is still to his name, but even so, a 4v5 advantage for CLG, and Zapman's going to be out for another 30 seconds plus. This could be a T2 tower for CLG, or they could just pressure the advantage with having the 4v5, group up, and maybe try to siege a bigger objective.
And Zapman's not been having a great game this time, and Snoopy's been looking really good at 2-1-4. I suppose Zapman 0-3 and 2, 3 levels behind. Only level 17 right now. Mask blinks in again. Can't find that first ability on Snoopy. Does find the second one though, and immediately goes into the bat out of hell looking for follow-up. Hurwin's here though. Final Judgment's charge, and it comes to the fight. Does not keep Snoopy alive though. Met Yankee takes that kill. It's been 1 for 1 now if you count that kill that happened back on Zapman, who's now back alive.
And what seemed like a very promising situation for CLG has now been turned on its head. Snoopy instead is going to be the one dead for about a minute here, and Trifecta with Zapman just now respawning. Now they're the ones who have the opportunity to look for a bigger objective in mind.
Just too far forward there with Snoopy. Ends up getting punished. Just as I was saying, he's been having a good game here so far. Ends up taking the spill. It is 4 members, I think, that collapsed on top of him. Even with Hurwind around, it just was nowhere near enough. And as you said, with a bit of a power play here, Trifecta now can move over towards this Fire Giant pin. It looks like that is indeed what they've done. They've already got this Fire Giant pulled. Homie's here. Not quite in position really as Hurwind. Jig's here as well. But they're not taking down this Fire Giant too quickly. It's at about half health right now, but they're able to force Homie away. Final K's on the back end though. He wants to try and disrupt.
All that Final K wants to do is put as much damage on the Zapman as possible and distract Trifecta underneath this. Hurwin has made the rotation. He's still got that final... Oh no, his Final Judgment actually isn't available right now. Hurwin was just trying to look for a regular steal, but Final K is going to be able to find Met Yankee in the process.
Hurwin now has Scary D barreling down on him, but he's been able to escape, and it's Mask who blows up. Even in a 4v5, they've already gotten 2 kills so far. Nairmont gets pulled back in towards the rest of CLG, and there's the ultimate from Hurwin that takes Nairmont out. 3 members who have fallen, and Snoopy's in the fight now as well. Scary D gonna have to turn tail and run. This went from a Fire Giant for Trifecta to 3 members dead for Trifecta to CLG now standing in the Fire Giant pit themselves with a chance to turn this game around. I say turn around, they're the ones in the lead, and they're looking to make it even more so.
I think they're going to be able to secure this before Trifecta have a chance to respond.
Oh, yeah.
Scary D, he doesn't have his teleport available. There's no way for him to come into range of this Fire Giant, and Homave on the opposite side of the map, he's just happily farming away, keeping Zap distracted. Zapman knows that this Fire Giant is happening. He could not afford to be anywhere near it, though. Love that chase by Final K, just making sure that Zap backed off entirely before coming back and rejoining up with his team, taking up the FG so they could secure it.
Final K on this Sobek is so much better for me than this Terra has been so far. Teleporting in on the back end of 2 fights in a row now on those objectives. He's completely turned around, disrupted them. The damage on the Fire Giant basically halted entirely, and instead they turned to the fight. Hurwin's damage is huge for them too, and they got 2 quick picks.
In game 1 and 2, despite, outside I should say, of the Terra's blessing, visually being on the screen, it was really hard to notice that Final K's presence was actually in the game. But in this match in particular, Final K has completely exploded and just really brought his team back to life here. It was looking a little shaky at times, especially during that Gold Fury engagement. But ever since then, Final K has just been popping off with this Sobek.
Yeah, 3-0-5 for Final K in the solo lane. He's earned every bit of it, but facilitating for his team very well and disrupting what Trifecta want to do. When there's a Sobek lurking in the waters or tail whipping in your face, it's so much harder to try and land your abilities in the back line. Tier 2 tower in dual lane now is going to be the call, though. They've got Final K and Homie in mid lane drawing the attention while they get this tower over here for free, and they do. It crumbles down. Not going to be able to get this mid one until the rest of the damage actually shows up, but they're forcing him back. Trifecta can't exactly defend this.
CLG might have gotten the first Fire Giant in the game, though, but this isn't over just yet.
No.
Sieging in Season 5, we've seen it time and time again. It's really difficult, and the defensive draft that Trifecta has is pretty useful against these sieges. In particular, I'm looking mostly at Met Yankee on this Agni. It's going to be really on him to try and put as much poke damage as possible against the members of CLG.
And the mages are a big part of those defenses, I agree. Being able to find that poke and deter the sieging team from being able to jump in is going to be important. And then how well you can respond to that initiation, because so many times now, it's the support that's blinking in to try and get those fights started, or the solo laners blinking in trying to get them going. So I agree that Met Yankee is going to be the key for them if they want to defend. They're going to have to make those defenses on the Phoenix, though. All 3 Tier 2 towers just came down for CLG. They're in a very comfortable spot as far as map control is concerned, but can they make this final siege happen? Trifecta says no.
All that CLG want to do, though, is make sure that they are stripping this map of everything that might help bring Trifecta back into it. And granted, Trifecta aren't entirely out of this one yet. Like we were just mentioning, they still have the ability to defend these Phoenixes. But with the grouping now from CLG and all of these members just bearing down the left-hand lane, it's very apparent that all they want to take is this left-hand Phoenix first.
Yeah, and as good as Met Yankee is for those defenses, Thoth is really good in these Phoenix fights as well. That final judgment over the wall, whether you're attacking or not, can really turn that fight. If he can blow up one member or hit multiple members and at least get damage onto everyone, that could be a determining factor.
Agreed. Thoth is usually one of the best candidates or one of the best gods you could possibly have on your team, whether it's defending or sieging, just because he can also match a little bit of that extended range of that poke. And already, look at that damage to Zatman!
Zatman took so much damage, they weren't able to quite finish it off. That's okay, they're going to switch targets now back to this Phoenix. It's half health, it's gone. Met Yankee's committing the bombs now, but not really getting much damage out of those at all. Remember, CLG have Jigs on their team as well. They're going to be able to get plenty of healing from that Sylvanas pick to help them with this siege as well. They're going to back up for now. Looks like they got what they wanted on that left Phoenix, and they're ready to go back, heal up, finish off any items that they can. Still not quite full build is everyone for CLG, so they got a little bit more to go, and then they'll be ready to finish it off.
For CLG, the barrel is fully loaded. They're just not quite ready to pull the trigger yet, simply because of the fact that they know how much damage Trifecta can exert against them from one misstep. All it takes is one misplay underneath these Phoenixes, and with how late it is into the match now, those respawn timers are going to be a little bit too long to handle, and their only real saving grace if CLG were to wipe underneath the remaining Phoenixes is that Trifecta still have 5 towers, remaining on the map.
Yeah, there's still 2 Tier 1 towers that are up, so yeah, they got a lot of work to get done. Taking a look at these builds, though, Taco, there's that Atlantis bow that you were wanting. Looks like Snoopy has finally picked that one up, so that's one that gives you a little bit of extra chase down potential on your hunters once you successfully land those auto attacks. Coming forward is Met Yankee, and Met Yankee might meet the entirety of CLG, and he does, going in aggressive right away as Jig trying to look for the pull. Then the tail whip comes down, and Homie is able to crash down as well into Met Yankee. The first casualty of war in this fight. Homie is going to get credit for that one. Scary D now staring down 5 members of CLG. Dash comes out. They lock him down with the wall. He's half health. Where can he go? There's nowhere he can go but back to base. Supernova's good, though, for to at least shut down Homie Faye for Zatman, but that's not the biggest member of this team fight. 4 members are still strong, and they want to come push.
That might have just been the beginning of the end for Trifecta here in match number 3. If it wasn't for that Supernova from Zatman securing the kill onto Halme Efe, this would be a lot worse for Trifecta. They still stand a chance at defending. It is a 4v3, and that final judgment just off the mark doesn't connect onto Zatman, but don't worry, still plenty of damage soon to come if you're Horiwin.
They're committing.
However, everybody's trying to peel. Mask can't find anybody else.
I'm kind of glad Mask backed up. I think if they'd gone in any further, CLG would have been happy to turn back around on that one. So they do defend that Phoenix over in the solo lane side, and Zatman getting that kill on the home if it did come up very big for them. The 5v3 there would have been much, much worse than the 4v3. Instead, they're going to come back, pick up this Fire Giant. Come on, give it 10 seconds so Homie can grab this one too. It looks like they are going to do it. And that way they can let him have it. But Met Yankee was so far forward in the jungle there, Taco. I don't know if he expected CLG to be there.
Definitely wasn't expecting CLG to be there. Also might have been expecting them to not be as aggressive as they were. I mean, Snoopy just immediately deploys his ultimate, starts chasing him down, and that just causes everybody else from CLG to start trying to collapse on top of that Agni. And you can't really fault him. He was looking for wards. That's, if you take a look at the map right now and see where the soul is at on it, you can see that there's 2 wards that have been placed there for Trifecta, And the reason being is that a lot of times teams will eliminate the smaller ward that they have behind Zapman, closer to the Phoenixes, because everybody sentry wards that, especially since you know with a god like Agni and they're going to be looking for that extended poke range, you don't really want to be hovering around those walls typically. So if you place a sentry ward a little bit further up, you can get vision before they actually reach it, and maybe look for a counter ambush opportunity or have Mask lingering in on that right-hand side to see if you can collapse on them in the mid lane. Instead, it's going to end up costing them, but not too much. It's really just a free fire. I don't think Trifecta would have contested that FG either way.
This Phoenix is about to come back up on duo side, it looks like, and that's what CLG want to do. Take down this weakened one. I believe Zapman was the one that got kill credit for Homie, if I know it's his supernova that blew him up. But if so, I mean, that was his first kill of the game and a good time to get one. With Homie alive, they might have lost that game right then, right there. Instead, CLG going to have to kind of give the siege one more try. Final K is going to be the front line for them here. They're getting pushed back though right away.
They need to wait for their creep wave to be available first. Trifecta made sure to do a good job of taking that one out, so they wouldn't have to worry about it. And CLG not quite willing to just fully dive this Phoenix. They'll most likely go in as soon as that creep wave arrives.
Final Judgment being charged by Hurwin in the back line. You got to be so careful if you're Met. If you're Zap and you get knocked up right into that Final Judgment already, is forced to back up. Phoenix falls on the left-hand side, and full push is CLG. Hurwin staying back and trying to control Scary D on the back end, and the whole rest of the team is here too. Snoopy's the one that gets credit for it, and the first member to fall is the Cocoon that's done so well for them so far. CLG backing up. They want to try and come back and get one more Phoenix.
Still no guarantee on whether or not CLG is going to be able to close out this game. Sure,
No.
Scary D might have fallen, but there's still plenty of damage to boot if you're Trifecta between this Agni and the Soul. And the big Wombo combo has already been expended from Counter Logic Gaming.
Pull comes in though, and that brings Neyruma right into a bad neighborhood with a lot of damage in it. Hurwin now has his damage going out, able to avoid the bomb over the wall from Met Yankee. And Neyruma not really going to be able to step forward and be that front line that they need. He gets rooted the pull a little bit off the mark. Final Judgment's back up again, and almost enough for Neyruma. Snoopy, though, happy to get that last hit to finish it up. They're not even worried about this last Phoenix. They take it down. Mid-Phoenix falls, and now they're ready to make their final push onto the Titan. CLG, after a close set, take it 2-1.
And there's just not enough time left for Trifecta to maybe bounce back. That's going to be the end of it here for CLG versus Trifecta.
And just such a difference that these picks and bans have been making here, Taco. I mean, Final K on Sobek versus Final K on Terra, entirely different. Mask on Ratatoskir versus Mask on everything else, entirely different. These picks bans are so important this season.
I didn't mind the Maz Camazotz. I just think that he didn't have anywhere to really go in on. Camazotz, you want to be able to blink in, get that burst damage off, but the way that CLG played, again, just the Mask groupings preventing Mask from doing anything.
Well, there's a bunch of good candidates on CLG for the MVP poll. We want to know who you all there in chat thinks deserves to have it. So make sure that you get in Mixer Chat right now and vote so we can see who you want to have as your MVP. In fact, I kind of want to know who Tom and Ryan have for their MVPs as well. Let's get it over to the desk.
Thanks a lot, Finch and Taco. Tom and Ryan here, as they said. And, you know, we used to have well, I still have a friend, but we used to have a friend here at Smite, Kelly Link, and she used to stream. One of her emotes was HH for when she accidentally missed the GG. But this one was on purpose about HH. You had no idea where I was going with that.
I still don't, to be honest with you. Could you finish so I can jump on board and ride on your train with you?
It's all HH. Homie and Hurry bringing the noise
Oh,
here. Thank you.
I get it now. Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
it's certainly her. Why didn't you just? Okay, never mind.